two of our designers, two very, very big people that have been working on some crazy stuff. I'm here with Brian and Dan.
Hi, I'm Brian.
Dan.
You guys want to kind of introduce yourselves?
Sure.
What you do?
I'm Brian Lucas, lead designer on 5.
Dan Cooper, level designer on 5.
Awesome. Any key highlights you want to put out there, or just
key highlights?
Everything.
Elaborate on key highlights.
Favorite level you worked on, favorite design element, stuff you were like, yeah, that was me. That's my baby.
Let's see. The loot system, game balance. Go ahead, you guys can give me some stuff for that. I know it's not the greatest yet, but
it's awesome. It's awesome.
It's got work that needs to be done. Dan, what levels have you worked on?
Worked on 2-3, Act 2-3. That's Kila with the siege towers. Probably my favorite map I worked on was Bethlehem, which is the map after that with the Joshua Beam Shining Limit in it.
Yes.
So
tough fight. That's a tough fight. That was a rough one for a while.
Yeah.
So what have you guys been working on this week? Anything in particular? Or?
Funny enough, I already mentioned it. We're working on loot distribution and balancing that out a little bit. We're gathering data metrics right now, trying to figure out where we're giving too much loot, where we're not giving enough loot. Then also looking at the different role tables and seeing, if we're giving too much or too little there. It's a bunch of different avenues of where we could possibly be delivering too much loot. That's when you have 5 characters and you need to equip all of them.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of goodies. There's a lot of goodies.
There's a lot of desire to give the player whatever they need, but at the same time, you can overdo anything.
Yeah.
And right now, we're overdoing the loot.
Okay, cool.
So,
what about you, Dan? What are you doing?
Same thing. Just been gathering data.
Cool.
So going through the levels and looking at loot. So
Very cool.
He's basically data mining all the levels right now, pulling out all the information, and we're going to go over it together and analyze and dig through it and basically come up with an end result of here's all our bad and all our good levels, and then rein it in from there.
Yeah.
So what's been going on? We did that. We organized strike teams, so we're working on all sorts of really cool stuff that not for public consumption yet, but there's some really cool stuff in the works right now. There's some really exciting things coming for 5.
Looking forward to that.
Life at the office, good? Everybody happy?
Yeah.
Getting your morning coffee?
Man,
feeling groovy?
The break was nice.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. The break after lunch is always nice. Spend some time with family and took care of the house, that type of stuff. But after that, we came back all refreshed and happy and just put it into drive and started going.
Here we go. All right. We are Kingdom Games. We are on all of our favorite social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, Steam. We're on all of them. We're here weekly, 4:30, to talk about the game.
Yep.
All right.
All sorts of fun stuff. And of course, you can pick up 5 Guardians of David on Steam right now. You should. There's cool stuff coming. There's cool stuff in the game. And development will continue on all sorts of fun little goodies and surprises. That being said, today we're going to talk about some back-end stuff because I'm not a Unity guy. I'm a game maker guy. I'm working my way up.
Nice.
So
I like
GML, not C.
I like
not
Game
C#.
Maker.
I love
Hey,
Game Maker.
I'll tell you what.
Game Maker's cool.
I'm a big fan.
Like you, my first engine, RPG Maker. I don't even know if I'd call that really an engine, but
RPG
back on
Maker's
cool.
PS1, PlayStation 1.
It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff.
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
Man.
But we're going to go into Unity, and you guys are going to show me some back-end stuff of Goliath, because that seems to be a pretty popular encounter. Brought up a lot, actually.
Here we go.
Yes.
Go to Unity. Oh, man.
C forever.
All right.
So this is the editor.
Yep.
So, this is generally what it looks like on a level-to-level basis. The middle screen is the viewport or the scene port so that you can see what's happening in a map as you're working on it. Right now, this is a static beginning where before you hit the play button and before you actually go into the level and experience the level, this is what it looks like. So that's the arena where Goliath is set up, and that's how it always looks until you start playing the level. Right. We have a bunch of scripts and tools that turn off all this stuff here and only turn it on when we call it and when we want it to play. So like you can see Goliath dead already over there.
Yeah.
You see that little camera path. You see the little line that's kind of a lasso. It's basically the camera path, you know, at the intro of the level. He's selected Goliath's dead static body there, and that's something that it's like a prop that we spawn in after you
and you go X, Y, Z, and move it around as needed.
Right. You want to add something to that?
Yeah.
At all?
Yeah, I mean, this is a typical, you know, Unity scene, I guess. Kind of touched on that. Up here are the controls to play the scene. One of the cool things about Unity specifically is you can run the game instance and see what's going on in the scene, which is really nice when you're developing stuff. So it's definitely something that's cool.
Gives you a chance to iterate and test things really quickly.
Yeah.
Or whenever he creates a bug, he can go ahead and find it relatively fast.
Yeah, right, yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
So what is the process? So you want to make a boss fight with Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about creating the arena and getting everything set up? What gets you to this stage? How much work is that? Months? Days?
How much
hours?
do I want to elaborate on? Because that would be really cool if we had Bill for. He's the one who put the most work into the boss fights. But from a general conceptual standpoint, we would basically decide that this is the level that we want a boss fight in, and so we would create the space that you see.
Yeah.
It's basically there.
This
we want to have enough
perimeter
space.
here. Yeah.
Right. We want to have enough space to allow the player to run around and effectively fight the boss, you know, but utilizing their own style or tactics. You know, if they want to run away, if they want to engage, if they want to create some space to heal up, like whatever the case may be, allow them to use all those tools within that arena. But then we also want to decide on, you know, behaviors for the boss. We want to make sure that they fit within the arena space. We want to make sure that, you know, he's not too large or too small. We want him to stand out. We've got a large number of things that we want to pick from to make sure that the boss looks and feels like he's a boss, and he's going to hurt you if you allow him to just beat on you.
That's kind of interesting when you're dealing with David Goliath specifically, because Goliath is a giant, 9 feet by most accounts.
Right.
David's 5, 10, 6 foot.
Right.
So you have a huge scaling difference there. How does that present? I guess that would present some challenges, I would think, uniquely.
I mean, on the art side, and I won't speak too detailed on this because it's not my forte, but I mean, you could even say for yourself that it's sometimes you can scale things up, but you have to be very careful with how much of that you do, especially if you're using the same rig.
Yeah.
Because then you can end up with animation issues or other calculation issues if you were to just scale up the character. So you end up having to create a whole new character model, rig, etc., and then run calculations off of that to make sure that he doesn't outpace, you know, the player if you want him to not outpace the player.
Right.
If he's using a big, like his spear slide attack, for example, if it's a smaller character, it could potentially cause him to go even further or you know, not as far. I mean, it depends on a lot of back end stuff that, you know, if you scale a character, it could present a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So generally, I think he's his own character model. I think he's got his own rig, and everything is based off of that. And so we've had to kind of form fit things to make sure that he doesn't act strange, because he certainly did there for a while. But you guys didn't get to see that.
No, it's really cool to see it in this what I would call the frozen state.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is all happening in the game. Now, is this a step or is this a scene?
Well, this is setup.
Okay.
So this is basically
this is a scene.
What we work with every day. Like, go ahead and elaborate on that, Dan.
Yeah, so I mean, just to, you know, this is a game object. You know, like Brian said, when Goliath is killed, this gets turned on. But Goliath is spawned in, and you know, there's a spawner, and when you'll hit a trigger, you know, down here, whatever it is that drives the event. You know, in this case, the boss fight, and then Goliath spawns. You start fighting him. Everything's triggered off that. I mean, the scripting. Let me see if I can dig into that a little bit. Show you some stuff here. But it's a lot of it's scripted, all the actions, you know, in game and stuff. And I'm not sure about this particular one because I didn't set this particular scene up, but I imagine it's off of a trigger.
It is.
Yeah. So when the player enters here, they hit the trigger, and that kind of launches everything. Let me see if I can find one of the. Yeah.
And does that apply to?
Here's Goliath kill. This is
exciting.
Yeah. This is exciting stuff, actually. This is scripting. Yay.
So when Goliath is killed, it starts in the upper left-hand corner.
Yeah.
That's the scripted event node, and then it runs through. Like if you follow the green little spaghetti monster, if you will, it runs through some inputs and outputs, and every one of those nodes is an action, and it's telling the game to do these things.
Yeah.
It's coding building blocks. If you
Kind of, yeah. Technically, it's visual scripting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You'll learn that when you
I'm learning. When I get to hang with the big boys, right?
I'll see you tomorrow.
But I mean, basically, you hit a trigger, it starts everything up, all that runs. That's kind of what makes the gameplay happen. And we touched on it a little bit, but the arena design for Goliath, it was pretty open because of his attacks, right?
Yep.
The way he was, the intent. And we actually defined what's cool about the Goliath fight. One thing is we defined the borders of the arena with civilians and stuff, which is really cool. You know what I mean?
Because it's a good way to mask the walls, right?
Yeah, and you can define. It's almost like a dynamic boundary. It's really cool here because they're all kind of cheering and it feels really alive. It's one of the things I liked about this particular space.
I want to find the. There's these guys that if Goliath hits the crowd, it knocks a bunch of characters off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Blocker dudes. That's funny.
It's actually something that gets brought up a lot. I hear a lot about the crowd arena and the interactivity of Goliath bashing to the crowd. And I also hear a lot about the David dodge roll. That gets brought up an extensive amount. Do you guys tell me a little bit more about that? How was that an early decision, or is that a
the David dodge roll?
Yes.
Actually, that was pretty late. That was Bill Kirkman came in and started working on boss fights, and we didn't have a roll, and he was like, why don't we just put a roll on David, and that'll make it easier for the player to get away during some of these crazy attacks that Goliath has. And so we were like, that sounds excellent. How long will it take you to get it in there? 10 minutes later or something, he pretty much immediately had it in there, and we realized right away that was something that we needed to go with. And there has been talk about, do we give the player that type of functionality for the characters? And we had already kind of set down a path where it was really hard to incorporate that into some of the characters, but also some of the characters kind of have that with some of their other attacks.
Yeah, Abishai.
Their movement-based abilities, like Abishai's flip shot, is an example of basically the same thing, and it should be used basically the same way.
Yeah.
Benaiah has, I think it's like Hammer Slam or something like that. If any of those movement abilities where it vaults you forward or backward, those types of abilities should be used to get yourself out of sticky situations. They're not just attacks. They're intended to be more than just that. Yeah. So we decided we wouldn't try to add that extra functionality in there because most characters already had that type of ability anyway. It just was kind of up for the player to figure that out. And we didn't really want to just throw that out there, but it's been a month, so 2 months. We give that hint now.
It's been good times.
Right.
How difficult is it to swap out a player? So you play as the 5, you get through, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're switching to David for an instance. How much work is that?
Yeah, I guess it depends on if you're coming into a level or scene fresh. Then that's done in what we call it's a controller basically that handles who spawns at the start of the level. You can do it via kind of our scripting here. And that's how you can do it in a level. Like if you got an event or something, like with Joshua Beam in 2.4, it swaps to...
What's that, Bethlehem?
Yeah, Bethlehem. Yeah. Sorry.
Self-plug.
Yeah.
Self-plug here.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
right. The best level in the game.
Right,
no big deal.
No,
I only said that because who out there knows what 2.4 means?
Right.
No, that's a good point.
It's a developer.
Sorry about that.
It's internal naming of and stuff.
But yeah, basically, there's a cinematic there, and during that cinematic, that's where we handle the transition to just have it be Joshua Beam.
Right.
And then after the event's over, the scripting's done, and it brings the rest of the 5 back into the party, essentially.
We generally do
It's all
that
done
stuff
through here.
behind the fade screen. So when the screen is fading out, we quickly swap out a bunch of stuff, and then we swap in a bunch of stuff to kind of change the dynamic of the level. So that's, I mean,
it's just like theater. It's just like
pretty,
theater.
Right.
pretty common
Smoke and
trick
mirrors.
that Hollywood uses or other games will use or whatever. It's not that groundbreaking.
Now, why was there a decision to have like the boss fight? I understand the arena, but then there's this whole massive level you can kind of explore after it. Was that a late addition, or was that always kind of a decision you wanted?
We wanted to make sure that the level felt right, like it was Saul's camp. And when you defeat Goliath and it goes into that cutscene where all the Israelites are running out chasing the Philistines away, we wanted to make sure that the player knew where they were coming from. We didn't want it to just seem like some facade.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that Saul's camp had a ton of troops, and
It's a
about
massive
ready to go to
level
war
outside the arena.
They're
Like,
about
there's
to
a
fight.
lot of cool stuff you can explore.
Yeah.
Additionally, we have caches hidden around the level, and that's a thing that we've wanted to push since day one. Is give them another means to learn the content, and give them a reference within the Bible to find that information if they want to explore more. So those are the two real reasons why we decided to go with a much larger map to effectively give the player a boss fight of David versus Goliath, because we could have shrunk it down, but it just
So when we talk about a boss fight, something that intrigues me is this.
showing off all this stuff.
Yeah, I was showing that you guys were talking about
Yeah.
the big build up to the arena.
Good.
So
Good
yeah.
B-roll. When you have a boss fight, there's definitely got to be that balance of challenging and frustrating. So how do you know is it a feel? Like, this just feels right, or is there intense calculation? Is there a developer formula?
I don't think there's any real formula for it. I mean, there is to a point, but in the end, you just need to play it.
Yeah.
You need to play it. You need to play it. You need to get other people to play it, and it over and over again. You have to get feedback from outside of just your own little island where you're making the game. I don't know how many of us worked on the Goliath boss fight in separate stages. We got a first pass in back probably over a year ago. When I first started, we kind of had a Goliath boss fight, but I wouldn't even say it was really a boss fight at the time. It was just kind of, you could fight Goliath, and it was always the same stuff. But then we started putting in, abilities, and then we created the arena. We started adding more elements, and the more we added, the more complicated it got, so the more difficult it was to make it fun.
Yeah.
Some people they changed some stuff up a little bit, and it got harder. Harder and also more frustrating. So then we had to use some tools and do some math and try and figure out, what's really happening here, because we really didn't change the abilities all that much. More or less, just changed the conditions for winning. At one point, we had you had to hit him 4 times, only at certain times, and then that would break his or pop his helmet off or something like that, and then you would be able to throw a rock at him. But all that is just too complicated, for this type of gameplay. And we had to roll back from that and eventually come to the conclusion of where we are now. And it's basically you beat on him. For the most part, he's invulnerable. He's not exactly invulnerable, but he's really well defended. He gets his spear stuck in the ground, and he's vulnerable at that point, which you can hit him a bunch of times. So we kind of compromised with the two ideas of just beat on the boss versus having some conditional needs to allow the player to not always just stand there and smash on him. We wanted to make it a little more interesting. So in the end, we used a lot of tools. Actually, you should hit the play button and get in there.
Yeah.
One thing and the reason why I want to show is because I'm pretty sure, is there a tool that we need to enable to show his abilities when he uses his abilities and it shows the range? The debug tool range?
Yeah, there might be. I'm not familiar.
Okay.
Offhand with
I
that.
don't remember
Where that one's at.
Yeah. We ended up
Might
adding
have something Bill added in.
Yeah, Bill added a debug tool that would show you the range that his ability was hitting, and then that would allow us to sync up the ability side versus the VFX side, because at one point the VFX was just pushing out really slow and really far, but the ability would hit much sooner, so the player didn't have that context to understand, how far they need to move out of the way. So we eventually got enough tools in place to help us really hone in on, okay, why is it frustrating? Let's fix that. Now it's not frustrating anymore,
Right.
a little bit, but, he's a boss.
Yeah, and I just to elaborate a little bit, I know a lot of times when I'm doing a level and I'm working on encounters or something, I've played it 1,000 times,
Right.
and I get kind of like, oh, this feels okay, and sometimes you get stuck in just a world of where,
The next day,
this is fine.
And that's why arranging themselves on the slopes
always
of
good to
Wadi
ask other
al-Kindi is
people
best.
when
The
you're putting
Philistines
together
must
to
cross
play it,
not
too.
one,
Right.
not two, but 3 streams before even attempting the ascent up.
King Saul and the Israelite army had assembled in the valley of Elah.
This is,
They pitched
clearly
camp
the
near
new
Ephes Demis.
stuff that we've
but
been talking about. We've got some texture issues that we got to work out.
As you see the guys fighting, all those guys they were scripted there.
Close that.
What's up? Oh, the playbook.
All sorts of fun.
There he is. I'm terrible at this fight. Just a heads up. Oh yeah, you can see we're transitioning.
Yeah. So that gives you an idea of where the difference is being shown. If you hit pause and go to the editor, you can see some stuff that you wouldn't normally see. This is the view of the game, basically paused. When you're sitting in the scene view when you hit play or pause the game, you do that thing again.
Yeah.
Go back to just hitting it.
You want me to pull
And then
back?
pause.
Alright.
And then go back to the scene. So there's some stuff in there that'll happen. And it'll give us clues as to why something is intended it to work. So it's I don't know how else to explain it other than we just have a lot of different tools that players don't get to see to help us kind of get a good feel for where things could possibly be broken or could possibly be causing frustrations on the boss fight.
Well, and sometimes things aren't broken, it's just maybe giving a way to teach the player what they need to do. Like, I know we put a lot of work into signaling characters in different ways.
This is a good
You want to talk about that? Like his tells and
it's got like telegraphing attacks, and Brian, a lot of this too, obviously, but this gives a player like time to react, like it's coming, right? Sometimes it'll do it with VFX, animation, sound, sometimes it'll be used, and the player, I guess, makes that correlation, like, oh, he's getting ready to dash attack, I've seen it once, I know it's coming, and you get out of the way. It's just perfect, you can see him getting ready to wind up right here.
And the animation is done in a way that you're not going to see the same windup, so that you know what attack is coming. So all the different attacks will have separate animations, separate windups, so that they're different enough that you get. Okay, he's about to dash, attack, or he's about to jump in the air and get his spear stuck on the ground. He's about to do his overhead whirly thing. Those are all different enough that you can kind of tell. Project that that's what's happening. Additionally, we've got the red glow around Goliath.
Yeah.
You can see that. That's there in place to show that he is invulnerable, or relatively invulnerable. His damage has been mitigated considerably. When he gets his spear stuck in the ground, that red glow goes away. Similarly, for David, he's got his divine shield. I believe that's what we end up calling it. He's got a buff on him that allows you to take a hit from Goliath, and then it regenerates over time. When that buff goes away, so does the glow on David. And that's additional feedback so the player knows, I've got this buff, and I don't have this buff, and I need to be extra careful until it comes back. Or, he's hit me a couple of times since it's been down, and I need to use some generally.
It's good. I really want to know, like, how do you guys, what is your philosophy on boss fights? Is it like Dark Souls masochism, or do you think it's better to have something that's a little more approachable?
So
or
I don't think
somewhere in the
it's
middle, or
that is.
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think, and I wish Bill was in here for this one because he's a Dark Souls fan, and so there was a bit of gotta make sure he doesn't do that kind of approach. You know, he doesn't design it in such a way because we wanted it to be a little more accessible. Our target audience isn't the Dark Souls audience, so we want it to be difficult. We want it to be challenging in a way that isn't, I guess, pushing you away from the game. We don't want that. So we want people to feel like they can actually get through the game without being frustrated. So that's part of the reason why we made some of the design decisions for if you die in a boss fight, where do you respawn? How does the fight? Does it start over? Does it continue? Those are all design choices that we made to kind of make it a little bit easier. We weren't exactly sure how the market would take starting over. You know, it's pretty rough. I mean, D3 does it obviously, but we wanted to make it a little bit easier, and we can add the challenging layers later.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, I know you guys have talked a bit about, well, you know, in the story, it's pretty much one shot with a stone.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't make a really great boss fight, right? So you have to make choices to change things up.
And we tried to keep some things as close to what's in the Bible as possible. However, we also have to make a good game. And so there are times when we'll fudge the experience side, you know, the player's experience side a lot because we want them to enjoy what's happening. We don't want them to just go in there, sling, hit Goliath once, and that whole epic moment.
Right.
Overlooked, you know?
Yes.
We didn't want to just do a big cutscene and then the player presses the A key or something like that. It's over. So we added some layers to it.
And people have responded pretty positively to it. I mean, this is definitely the most cited scene that I've seen people talk about. Is they really like the fight.
It's good.
They like the dodge roll mechanic. They like the breakaway and then back into the 5. Like, were you guys expecting that, or did you just kind of?
Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of time on this because we knew that so many people were familiar with it, whether you know the content or not, whether you study the Bible or not. In America, at least, I think everybody knows David and Goliath.
Yeah.
At least as, I guess, a metaphor for maybe their own situation or
it's in the vernacular.
Right. Everybody knows what a David and Goliath situation is, and they probably have looked it up a few times to get familiar with the story. And so we really wanted to make sure that this moment was happening. We wanted to make sure that everybody could enjoy themselves and that it would be a sticking point.
Given the game's response, do you think we could see some of these things besides enemies return elsewhere? Is that all classified still?
Most everything is classified.
Yeah, so classified.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Neither confirm nor deny.
I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more boss fights like this. But I mean, things change in game dev, so it's always wise to not play your hand because what could be true today can change a couple months down the road. So.
Okay, everybody in the chat, just so you know, if you have any questions,
go ahead and unpause this and just let it run through. Like, defeat Goliath. Let's kill Goliath, get through the unit, and then switch back to the scene mode to show all the kills.
Let's go. I see the Empire.
If anyone has any questions, please type them in the chat right now. Here's one for you on Play Paybox. So, what % of the scene relied on Unity known templates? Oh, relied. What % of the scene relied on Unity?
I really don't know the answer to that question.
Would you say is it mostly no draft or is it coded or?
It's mostly. Man, there's so many scripts on this scene. There's a ton of things that are brought in from the store, but I don't know how much of it is basic. That's generally not stuff that we try to keep track of. The engineers probably be a better guess, better assess that. But most of the stuff is all hand scripted and crafted. So I doubt that any of it's like templates.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got him with no bread.
This day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and wild animals, and the whole world will know.
Get up to the scene. Oh, dang.
What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Pause it.
David takes Goliath's own sword to deliver.
No, I'm trying to.
The Philistines ran when they saw that their champion was defeated.
Let me do the scene.
The men
Oh,
of
man,
Israel
it
and
kills the
Judah
mouse
surged
all over.
forward with a shout
Can you
and
hotkey
pursued
over
the
scene? I don't
Philistines
know how to do
all
that.
the way to the end.
There you go. Nice. And then you're gonna have to.
What's
it doesn't
up?
work that way. I was just gonna show the guys and how they run.
Yeah, this was cool
Like,
the
it's-
way how this was done, because they effectively run through the camera and then they teleport back. And it's the same group of guys.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to show.
It's a camera
Yeah.
trick. Yeah.
It's just funny stuff.
Let me see if I can pull it out this way and do it this way. Yeah, we might be able to see it like
I know
this.
Joe showed me
Yes, over
something.
on the left. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, you see
There
them
you
kind
go.
of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was the end, but they kind of disappear there at the top.
it's
Yeah,
just
Joey
so
showed
cool.
me something similar with the rain effect. It was actually just right in front of the camera
is,
and just not
yeah.
not throughout the whole level.
And I mean, part of that is most of that is because of performance reasons. We want to make sure that when we're doing tricks like that, that we don't cause performance hits. So frames per second can maintain around 30 frames per second in every scene.
Yeah.
So
And this is one of those points where we're transitioning away from David back to Abishai and I believe. Yeah. So that all happened kind of behind the scenes, that transition.
It's a nice little kind of visual trick. If anyone has any other questions, let us know. Just so everyone's aware, we are Kingdom Games in Austin, Texas. We have made 5 Guardians of David. The game you are seeing behind the scenes now, you don't get to see that cool blue effect, although that kind of pink from the bow would be cool, and I think if we wanted to do some stuff. But we are upgrading to, this is a preview of the Unity 5 upgrade. It's coming in the near future. You can pick it up right now on Steam. 5 Guardians of David, 5 Guardians of David. You can also go to our website, KingdomGames.com, 5guardiansdavid.com, or find us on any of your favorite social media sites at Kingdom Games, ATX, Twitter, everything. We are here every week. The first Thursday of every month at 4:30. We have awesome art from Steven. Second Thursday will always be design, and then next week we have engineers, so that'll be exciting.
excellent.
Cool.
So, Brian, Dan, thank you guys for joining everyone
Yeah,
and
thank you
answering
guys.
questions
Thanks.
and showing all this stuff.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
But for now, we are out from the Kingdom Games studio. Everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week.